All right, everybody, welcome back. We're on week 4, and we're going to finish part 1, module 2 this week. There's not a ton left, but there are quite a few things to cover to make sure you understand. It's just part module 2, 2.6. Watch your video. Here's a link to Networking Academy. There are 2 screenshots to submit this week. So 2 labs in that academy that you will screenshot and submit just like last week. I haven't checked your homework from last week yet, but I'm assuming everybody's going to do it correctly. Make sure you do the part 1 module 2 test, and make sure you do the test, not the quiz. And these last 2 assignments will be done in PyCharm. You will create a Python file, save it, and submit it in Moodle. I'll go over on how to do that in just a second. So this week we're going to cover a few things. They cover a few things in that academy, and I will reiterate them here. If you open PyCharm, this is how you open PyCharm. I don't know if you've used it yet. We went over it in the first thing, but there's a little menu button up here. See where it says main menu up top. If you hover over it, it says main menu, and then it'll open up and it'll say file. Just open a new Scratch file. Make sure on your list you go down. If you haven't already done this, it won't be at the top, but Python will be in this list somewhere, just like this. Hit Python. There's your new file, and this is where you will program your homework stuff. We're going to cover the input function. So the input function is fairly important. Most of the time, we want to accept information from a user, do something to it, and give them back an answer. And they have to be able to input some kind of information, whether it be a file or just a number or a string. Most of the time, it will be preceded by a prompt for some information. So we would do like a print statement and just say enter a number, or yeah, we'll do number. Enter a number. And when you'll see this in just a second, but when it prints in the console, if you don't have a little space between where you want it to enter a number and the end of your string, like this space here, the number will be mushed up, and it looks better if you just leave a space there. And we can run this right here. No, we can't. Wow, it's because I'm running a wrong Scratch file. Current file, there we go. Enter a number. You can see down here in the console. And okay, so it already finished because we didn't actually do the input. The input, all right, we need to make the input equal to a variable equal to the input. So this is the next line, and it will take whatever number they put in and store it in the variable a. And I can run this, and now I can enter a number. It's doing it on a different line. That's weird. It used to not do that. I can enter a number, hit enter, and then it finishes because it stored it in the a variable, and that's all we told it to do. But then we can do something with it. We can print it. The number you entered is A. If we run this, enter a number, the number you entered is 5, and then it ends the program. So this is how we would enter like a string or any text characters or anything like that. So I did a print statement with the comma here. I don't generally like to do that. I like to concatenate strings. And if we do this and run it, and I put my number in, still a 5, it'll print it because I'm taking in a string and not a number. Does that make sense? I hope it does. If we want to specify the type, if we're expecting a number, we need to do that in the input. So in this case, we're going to make it an integer. We're going to accept an integer. We don't want text. If I run this and I put text in here and hit enter, I should get an error because it's expecting an integer. So then we'll cover how to fix that later. But in this case, we want an integer. And in order to print that, so let me run it again. I'll actually enter number 10, still get an integer, and this is the same error that we were getting last time. Two ways to fix this. You go, and that's when you would use the comma. So it's going to print, it's not concatenating, it's not trying to put the two things together. And if I run this and put a 10 in here, it'll print. Even though it's an integer, it'll still print the thing. But you see the format here is it's a little buggy. I don't like using the comma because there's two spaces between the is and the 10, and I don't like that. I like it to be right. So I want to concatenate, and then I would do the string function, run that, enter number, and now it prints correctly, right number spaces. There's no issues or errors. And this is called typecasting. You'll learn that in your lesson. All right, so that's input. That's how to take in input. So you want to specify it's a string or an integer or a float or whatever. That is how you specify it later. And you can, again, use that typecasting anywhere. I could have just required a string and then not had to do this later. But it depends on what you're trying to accomplish in your particular program. Getting a little more advanced here. Let's try a little program. We're going to do area of a triangle. Now this is not a math class, so I don't expect you to know all the formulas, but you can Google them if you ever need a formula for something. Unless you're super math whiz and you already know them, that's good for you, but I'm terrible at math. So the formula for finding the area of a triangle is 0.5 times the base times the height, if you know those. So we need to get a few things from the user. So we're going to do print what is the length of the base of your triangle. And then we need, when they input it, we're going to store that in the variable base, right? Sure, sounds good. So yeah, we can do it this way. You can do it this way, or there's another way, which maybe it's a little bit easier. Let's do this. Instead of the print prompt, we're just going to do base equals input, and let's do int input. And then in your input statement, you can type what is the base of your triangle. And they will input a number, and that will give you a doohickey, a jobber. So we're expecting two integers. Of course, you can do floats or whatever. The area is going to be equal to base. Nope. 0.5 times base times height. And then we're using our formula to get the area. And then we return the information to the user. Let's see if this works. Most of the time it doesn't. I don't get anything right on the first try. Let's see, the base is 5 and the height is 5. So the area is 12.5. I'm just going to check my answer here. Base is, what do I do, 5 and 5? Base and height. 12.5. Okay. Just checking it. Use Google. Check yourself. That's awesome. It worked the first time. That's great. So this is another way to do your input statements. You can actually type the prompt in the input and it will accept it instead of doing print and then input with nothing in it. This is a more efficient, less lines way to do an input. Then you just do your calculation and output it to the user. So if we wanted to do another one, it's not the area of a triangle. Pythagorean theorem. Can't remember what that's used for. A squared, b squared equals c squared. But if you want to do that, something with a little different mathematicals. So A is going to be we'll just do enter A, side A, whatever it is. Let's do int. This is probably a better place to use a float, but I'm just trying to keep things simple. So the formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And you're finding the hypotenuse of a triangle, right? So c squared is going to be equal to a squared plus b squared. And that's the multiplication 2 times is how you do to the power of. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing, you know, let's do a squared is a times itself, right? And then plus b times b. Same thing. It gets to be a little annoying, and it's easier if you can just if you just remember the to the power of properties. Same thing. But if you're doing like, you know, a to the 10 power, you got to type out a times a times a times a or whatever. Just a to the 10th power is a 10. And it's much easier, simpler, and cleaner. You just have to remember what that does. So they're going to give us a, they're going to give us b. We get c squared by doing a squared plus b squared. And then we print it. C squared. Run that. 5 and 5. We get 50. Sounds good to me. But just remember, the whole point of this little exercise was this square. The two multiplication symbols is how you square a number or put it to the power of. What else we got? Concatenation, I've talked about 100 times. It's a string plus a string. Replication is a bit different, and it kind of looks like that. So if a is equal to a string, just call it string, and we want to print string plus string. And let's say we want 3 of these. Oops. Nope, that's not what I do. A little more than 3. How about that? What's that? 6. Printing string plus string plus string plus string prints string, 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 string. But if we want to just replicate it, just times it, multiply it by 6. So not 2, but 1 multiplication symbol. And that will print that string 6 times. This is called replication. And you might have seen me mess with that in another video by accident, but because generally you can't print, a string times 6. If this was a string of 5, if a was a 5, I'm supposed to print a plus a plus a. So if a is equal to string, a times 6 is going to print 5 times. So, but if your string is also a number, it looks like a number, so it's going to print 5, 5, 5, 5. If a was actually an integer, like you see now it's blue now, not green, recognizes a number, it should print 30, right? So it's multiplication versus replication. And those are 2 things that they cover in the in Net Academy this week. The labs are pretty easy this week. Well, let's go into NetAcad. So you can click the link. I like to right click, open a new tab so I don't lose what I'm doing. Going to Networking Academy, making sure that I'm clicking the blue Legacy Net Academy link, and then I'm going to log in. Launch per course. I'm not sure where it'll actually pop up for you guys, but go to module 2. I'm going to use my little navigation thing on the side here. We're going to 2.5, the first lab. There are a bunch of labs in here, and I highly encourage you to do all the labs, but I don't require them all to be submitted. Just the ones I think will challenge you. So I want to make sure that you do them. 2619. So simple input and output. This one here. It just wants you to create an input a float value here for variable a. So a equals 5.0. And then another float for b. And then they want you to do the output result of addition. So we'll just call it add equals a plus b. And that's the output result, right? You're going to have to output the result of addition here. So maybe they want a print statement. I did a little bit differently. Yeah, this is easier. I don't like it to be this simple though. So when I run this, it does the addition, but it just says 10. And that tells me nothing. I mean, it does. I know it worked, but I like to just it's got to say something a little more. For me to do it to do this. So addition result 10.0. That tells me a little more. It gives me a little more useful feedback. You do you, but that's the way I like to do it. And then just do subtraction, multiplication, division. That's super simple. You should all be able to figure that out with no problem. The next one, look, if you can figure this one out. Maybe I guess I thought this one was too hard. So I skipped this one. And this one is definitely a brain teaser. You have, this one gives you test data on the side. So they want you to calculate duration, or do a duration calculator, whatever. For example, if an event starts at 12:17 and lasts 59 minutes, it should end at 1:16 or 13:16. Doing military time here. So they have sample data here. You should be able to plug in the hour, the minutes, and as long as the event lasted, or the duration, and get the same result. Make sure you're paying attention to these the test data on the side. There are three sets of test data. Use all three, because sometimes your code may work for one and not work for the other. Don't assume that it'll work for all three. I did a kind of long roundabout way to do it. Let's just see. No, I can get rid of that. So, no, I don't need hours. Minutes in hours. What am I doing? In hours. Oh my goodness. So my train of thought here when I was doing this was to get everything down to seconds and then divide by what I need to divide by to get the end results for minutes and seconds. And then add it to the current time. So this is what I did. It works. So if it made sense to me at the time and works, it's not wrong. If it makes sense to you and it works, it's not wrong. But it might look a little odd. So I'm collecting the minutes, the hour, making the minutes, or making the hours into minutes, then adding the minutes and the hours to the minutes, and the duration, and then timesing by 60. You get the number of seconds. And then I'm going to get total minutes, and I'm going to get the modulus of 3,600. The modulus of total minutes divided by 24 times 360. So there's hours and minutes in a day. To get the end hour, uh, 3,600. So this double division symbol here, it gives the quotient of A divided by V. So the answer for A divided by B, but then it rounds it to the next smallest whole number. So sometimes, obviously, some numbers don't divide evenly. So we just want a round number, and that's why I'm using the double. Now this one, I think, no. Well, I'm going to leave it like this for the first one. But you can just divide, but then some of them won't work. So the math all total made total sense to me when I was doing this. And then we're going to print, I think. Ooh. And we want to add colon. Remember, when you concatenate, you can control the way it works. All right, so let's run this, see what happens. I'm not sure that you can see my code. Let's zoom in a little bit. Slide this over, slide my console up, then run it, see what happens. So the first set of test data, 12, 17, 59, and we're expecting 13, 16. Let's see what happens. 12, 17, 59. And I get there. Minutes in hours is not minutes. M-I-N-U-T. This is line 5. Minutes in hours. Hours. Oh. All right. So errors are awesome. And quite honestly, half of programming is figuring out what the error is. So in this case, you see, it will tell you the file the error is in, because sometimes you actually pulling information in from other files. It will tell you the line it's on, so that's important. And on line 5, the error exists. It shows you the error, and then it says what the error is. It's a name error. It says hours is not defined, and that's because the first variable is hour, not hours. So I spelled it wrong, added an S, and got an error. I don't want to reset. I can reset your console. So, yeah, I'll just clear my console, run it again. 12, 17, 59. All right, come on now. Event seconds. Event seconds. Again, I spelled it wrong. Add an S, didn't need to. 12, 17, 59. Oh, no, I can't. 12, you have to enter. 17, enter. 59, enter. Okay, 13, 16. Let's look at the next one. You can't see the expected outputs. 1040. So 23, enter. 58, enter. 642, enter. 1040. So it works for both of these. Now, if I clear this out, and I was talking about the double division, if you can just do the single division sometimes, and like the second one, 2358, with a duration of 642. Well, so we get this weird hour, 10.6 hours, because what this is actually doing is calculating the hours and the seconds. So 10.6 hours is about 10 minutes or 10 hours and 40 minutes or whatever. So the 40 is in the first calculation, but we don't want to show it in the first calculation. We want to show it in the last one. Anyway, this was my convoluted way of completing this assignment. There are easier ways to do it, more advanced ways. Let's say if we take this all out, and let's take this all out. All right, well, let's just reset it then. Let me backspace there, unless I'm hitting the wrong button. So a more advanced person, I'm not sure if I explained modulus or not. Modulus is somewhat like division, but you get the remainder back. The remainder is your answer. So it's a good way to find out if a number is odd or even. If 10 modulus 2 is 0, because it's evenly divisible by 2, and the answer is 5, but you don't get 5, you get 0 back because there is no remainder. 10 divided by 3 would be 9 point something, and you get the remainder back. So 333, you get 1. It'd be modulus 1. That's a good way to say. So if you're looking for odd numbers, 10 modulus 3, if the answer is 1, it's an odd number. And if it's 10 or anything modulus 3 would be an odd number. That returned a 1 would be an odd number. Anything modulus 2 that returned a 0 would be an even number. It's used in a bunch of different ways. That's the easiest and most common way it's used. So an easier way to do this, and I wouldn't say easier, but a more advanced way to do this with less lines of code would just be to do the mins, change the mins value to be mins plus the duration, dura, And the hour is going to equal hours, or hour plus the minutes. So we're just adding everything all together, and then we're going to divide it by 60. But we want it rounded. And then all we're going to do is print the hours divided by modulus 24. I'm going to get that remainder. So how many times it evenly goes in, or whatever. We're going to concatenate that with colon, and then we're going to add the minutes modulus 60. That's right. And this should give us the correct answer. Let's see, 12, 17, 59, and I got to trace back. Modulus built-in function. Mins. Okay. Forgot the S. I don't understand the error here. But anyway, I didn't put an S on it. All right, 1, 12, 17, 59, 13, 16. Let's try the next one. 23, 58, 642. This is 1040. That's correct. Okay. So anyway, if you, the more, I mean, modulus is, it's not complex. I mean, we're teaching it in week 4 of basic Python. So it's basic and semi-important. You just, it's hard to remember how and when to use it. Same with the double division, to get round numbers. Those are difficult to remember if you're not using them a lot. But you can cut down all that code that I wrote, cut it down to 2 lines and a print statement if you really understand how this is going. So I just gave you all the answers for this lab. I don't like doing that, but I need to make sure that you understand these things, and this is why this lab is important. So there's your 2 labs. Make sure you do your quiz, and then in PyCharm, we went over how to do stuff. You're going to do miles per gallon, right? And we want to, I'd like to see some comments in your code. Like, you don't need to go overboard. Holds the number of miles driven. And then we want, you know, we're going to have a variable for miles, and it's going to equal an int input enter the miles driven, and gallons. Enter the number gallons used for your trip. So you're going to take in miles and gallons, and you're going to do the math and print out for your trip. What is it? Miles divided by gallons. Let's see if that's right. I drive 50 miles, use 10 miles a gallon. It's 5. Okay. I just did another one of your assignments for you, but I'm gonna try and stop doing that. The point of this was just to show you how to save a Python file out and then submit it. So in the top, you've got your main menu, and when you click that, it brings up all the stuff across. They used to just be there, but now you have to click the button to get it. I don't know why. Probably a button in here you can switch to change that, but just go to File, and we're going to Save As. I don't have Save All. I don't have Save As. No. File. Save As. Okay, it was grayed out. Now it's not. I don't know. Maybe just make sure you click it on your Scratch file here. I may have had, yeah, I had this open down here. So click on this scratch.py, go to File, Save As. Yours is going to look different than mine, but choose where you're going to save it. Now, if I want to save it on my desktop, that's where this is going right now. But, you know, if you click on this 3 button, you can pick whatever drive, folder, or thing you like. I hope you know how to do that. Basic computer stuff. Give it a name. Now, it says in the assignment, save the file as last name miles per gallon and upload it to Moodle. That doesn't mean save it as last name miles per gallon. That means use your last name and put it in there. Now, yeah, so just do that. And remember to comment your code. Put some code in there. Let me know what it's doing. I know what it's doing, and sometimes putting comments in is, it seems redundant or overly simplified, but later on you'll thank yourself for commenting your code. So back in PyCharm, name your file right here. Like mine would be Flynn. And I choose last name first initial, but I didn't want to type all that out. So last name's good enough. Flynn, miles per gallon. And this should just save as a py file. But I don't know what it does. So let's just do .py. Hit OK. And I'm going to look on my desktop. Yep. So before it would automatically save it as a .py file, as most things will. Apparently this new version of PyCharm does not just add the .py and it becomes a Python file. Let's see if I can open it with idle, but I'm not going to do that. Anyway, there's your file right here, wherever you put it. And then you just go to Moodle and upload it like you uploaded a screenshot. So that's the lesson for this week. If you have any questions, please send me an email. That's it. Thank you.